This ultimate guide to question 2 from the AQA GCSE English Language Paper 1 will show you exactly what to do to get full marks. After exploring the mark scheme in straightforward English, I will move straight onto an exam-style question with the extract taken from Conan Doyle's wonderful The Hound of the Baskervilles. I will show you how to annotate the text before giving you the opportunity to write your own response. My model 8 out of 8 response will then appear on screen, and I'll talk you through how it achieved full marks in the top band of the mark scheme. So let's get you higher marks for AQA GCSE English Language Paper 1 Question 2. You're watching Schofield on Shakespeare. So 8 marks for this question, 10% of the paper as a whole. Those achieving 8 marks will show a precise, perceptive and detailed understanding of language. Those achieving 8 marks will choose their quotations incredibly carefully, not just going for the simpler ones, but deliberately honing in on more complicated words and imagery. And the best candidates won't be writing "this word suggests" or "this word implies," but instead will use subject terminology such as simile, metaphor, personification, noun, verb, simple sentence, compound, complex sentence. But when doing this, the best candidates won't be feature spotting, won't be linguistically patting themselves on the back just for identifying that a particular phrase is a simile, say. However, they will be exploring the effect of such similes in splendidly precise, developed detail. Time to do some practice. Here's the exam style question. How does the writer use language here to describe the criminal? You can include the writer's choice of words and phrases, language features and techniques, sentence forms. And here's the text, taken from Conan Doyle's terrific 1901 novel, The Hound of the Baskervilles. The words were hardly out of my mouth when we both saw him. Over the rocks in the crevice of which the candle burned, there was thrust out an evil yellow face, a terrible animal face, all seamed and scored with vile passions, foul with mire, with a bristling beard and hung with matted hair. It might well have belonged to one of those old savages who dwelt in the burrows on the hillsides. The light beneath him was reflected in his small, cunning eyes, which peered fiercely to right and left through the darkness, like a crafty and savage animal who has heard the steps of the hunters. When producing these questions, even those worth just 8 marks, do spend some time thinking and annotating before plunging forth to produce less effective occasional waffle. Your annotations could look something like these. Hopefully that's given you some ideas. Time now to write your own response. Press pause to do so. The video will resume in 5 seconds' time, showing the extract again a further 5 seconds later. How did you get on? Plenty of super precise, detailed analysis with no vague, overly general, time-wasting and no point-scoring sentences in sight? Here's what I wrote. The writer's description of the face confirms that the criminal is dangerous and terrifying. Doyle writes that over the rocks there was thrust out an evil yellow face, a terrible animal face. Even the verb thrust, meaning suddenly pushed out, implies a kind of strange defiance. Clearly the man is looking out to see whether he is being pursued, but he does so with a particularly forceful lurch of his face. Meanwhile, the adjectives used to describe this face, evil, yellow, terrible, animal, imply an unhealthy pallor and savage, uncivilized malevolence. The phrase seamed and scored with vile passions suggests that his face is covered in scars, grime, and other consequences of his evil temper, whilst the sibilance, which of course creates negative hissing sounds, further signifies the fact that readers are expected to disapprove strongly of this beast-like subhuman. Indeed, it is suggested that the criminal's face might have belonged to one of those old savages who dwelt in the burrows. The reference to burrows continues the animal imagery, with its suggestion that somehow such a man is more suited to live in an underground hole than amongst humanity, whilst the image of old savages positions him as ferally prehistoric. Finally, the simile which compares his small cunning eyes to a crafty and savage animal suggests that he has the sharp instinctive senses of a wild animal. He can instinctively detect danger from afar and react accordingly. The adjective crafty has negative connotations. There is the feeling that this creature could act in any dishonourable way possible in order to avoid being detected. How does this respond meet the top band of the mark scheme? Well, the analysis is perceptive and detailed, albeit within a remarkably succinct phrase. Although in general I would be wary of grouping adjectives together, I do decide to do that here with the 4 negative adjectives. I interpret the yellow as signifying unhealthy pallor, whilst evil, terrible animal are analysed as suggesting savage, uncivilised malevolence. This exam is time pressured, and so it's key not to waste words. That said, it will frequently be necessary to use more than one sentence or a longer sentence in order to show a really detailed understanding of language, and I do this here with my exploration of seamed and scored with vile passions. Note also the judicious use of textual detail or quotations. I re-quote keywords from a longer quotation, burrows and old savages, in order to ensure that my analysis is sharply focused and insightful, whilst I also embed and cut down the longer simile about the crafty and savage animal. Remember, marks are not really given for copying, but what you say about the language. Finally, remember the importance of using subject terminology accurately, which I do here with the accurate use of the terms verb, adjectives and sibilants. So what is required in order to get full marks for question 2 from paper 1? Well, examiners are looking for lots of embedded quotations, the use of subject terminology such as verb, simile, rhetorical question, complex sentence. They don't want any waffle, and they want sharp, detailed, precise insight into language, particularly imagery. Good luck with it all, and many thanks for watching Schofield on Shakespeare.